You're listening to Sci-Fi Fest, where Soph meets sci-fi, film, TV, game and book reviews from the weird and the magnificent world of science fiction and fantasy. Hey sci-fi fans! Oh, it's been a long time, hasn't it? It's been a week and a half since I did the last episode. Sorry about that, life got in the way a little bit, but I've been playing lots of games and watching sci-fi in the meantime, so I've got hopefully a great episode for you. I've been playing a few games in the last week. I don't want to talk about them all in great detail because I just don't have the energy right now to do that, but I wanted to give special mentions to Dune Imperium, Twilight Imperium and also Dead by Daylight, which have been games I've been playing. Dune Imperium being the deck builder slash Eurogame. Check it out. Probably my favourite game, definitely in the top 5 of my favourite games, and I will in the future do some sort of video or whatever about it, but just don't have the energy, okay? Today, I don't have the energy. Same for Twilight Imperium. Very, very long game. Where you play a faction, you make alliances, you build an army, and you do all of it in space. Yeah, very fun game. Probably takes no less than 9 hours though. So if you really love long strategy games, then it's for you. And Dead by Daylight is obviously the 5-person game where there's a killer and some survivors and you have to escape. It's not a game that I play very frequently, but my friend Autumn just invited me to her Dead by Daylight server, so we've just been playing it a little bit. And I've just upgraded my character to Ellen Ripley, so which is, just a thing that I did. I spent money on that. Yes, I did. So what I like about Dead by Daylight is just the fact that there are so many different types of killer. I played against the Wraith, I played against Ghostface, I played against a massive bear, the Doctor, which is this killer that incites madness in you, Pyramid Head. Yeah, there's just such a big variety of different killers that you can come across, and each of them come with their own special abilities that you have to be aware of. So it's great to play with someone who knows what they're doing, at least. So I've been playing those games. I've also played a game which I wanted to do a special mention for, which is called Lethal Company. It's quite similar in some ways to, I guess, Dead by Daylight, or games of that echelon, where you are being chased by something. There's a sort of horror element to it. But in this game, you play a worker for a company who want you to go to different planets and gather sheet metal. You have a certain quota that you have to meet in order to succeed your contract. And if you don't, you are flung from the ship into space. So it's pretty high stakes. What I like about this game are that the graphics are just not very good. It's quite pixelated. All of the creatures are pixelated nonsense. Like weird spiders or things that look like the spiky kind of creature from Death Note. Sometimes they're just an amorphous blob of slime. But I've had so much fun playing it so far, and I definitely recommend it. I'll probably do a video of the shenanigans that have happened with this game at some point in the future, because it is just really fun. Before I move on to the actual review part, I wanted to preface that by talking a bit about this podcast in general. I've done 6 episodes of this now. It still doesn't feel easy. It still doesn't feel like second nature, I guess. And the reason why is because, I have my own self-doubts about whether I'm the right person to be doing this all the time. I don't have a degree in film, yada, yada, yada. But what I do have is that, in 2016, I started to want to watch more sci-fi and fantasy films. It was something that I really loved. I wanted to just engage with myself and with people more about these different topics and all of that. And that's where it all started from. And I guess I have to keep bringing myself back to that as the reason why I wanted to do this. But I think the reason why it feels so weird to be doing this podcast is because film for me is something about talking with people. And with a podcast, obviously, I'm talking into a void. Apart from the one episode where I talked about it with my partner. It's about talking to people. I don't think that my voice or my perspectives are so important that it would veto you ever watching it. Film is about we both watch the film and then we both talk about it. The reason why I wanted to say this is because I want to engage with people. So if you have a perspective, if you saw one of the films that I've talked about, or if you have a film you want to recommend, or if you have a book you want to recommend, or heard me talking about one of the games and you played it and you really loved it, I'd love to hear from you. Or if you would like to play a game with me, I don't know, whatever it is you want to say, you can send me a voice message or an email on sofafest@gmail.com. Or if you go to my link tree now, you can see a link there for sending voice messages. I just really love to hear different voices and talk to people about these topics. That's it. That's the preface I wanted to do. On to the film. So I watched In Time in the last week. Britney Spears just put out her most recent memoir, The Woman in Me, and of course I looked to Justin Timberlake, one of the few films that he's acted in Time, which I've been meaning to watch but haven't watched because it looked pretty bad, to be honest. But what annoys me so much is that this could have been a really great film. It's got a massive cast. It's directed by Andrew Niccol. The cast is Justin Timberlake, it has Amanda Seyfried in it, it has Johnny Galecki from Big Bang Theory, Cillian Murphy and Olivia Wilde. It also has Matt Bomer, I think his name is, he's from American Horror Story. So these are people that are pretty big names in Hollywood, and it had such potential to be a great film. The year is 21 something, I can't remember. They've developed this technology which allows people to stop aging at age 25. They have these numbers in their arms which track how old they are, or how much time they have left rather. When the timer reaches 0, then that person times out and the person instantly dies. Time is a universal currency and it's transferred directly through people, so you can touch someone and transfer this currency to people. And it's also stored in capsules in these time banks. You don't really see any other countries. I mean, it's accepted in this film that it is a universal currency, so in theory it's been done everywhere else, but you only really see one small part of United States of America. The country is divided into these time zones, so Dayton is the poorest. It's a ghetto where people rarely have more than 24 hours on their timer, and New Greenwich is the richest, and people there are effectively immortal. So the film follows Will, who's played by Justin Timberlake. He lives in Dayton with his mother, played by Olivia Wilde. Justin's character is working at a factory. He's very, very poor. He works in order to continue living. He talks a lot about his father before him. His father was a risk taker and would steal from people. So he lives in a very, very poor area of town. His life sort of changes one day when he goes to a bar, and there's a guy there called Henry Hamilton, who's played by Matt Bomer, and he clearly doesn't want to live anymore. Will says to him, you know, you really shouldn't be here, because if you have this much time on your hand, then people will try and steal it from you. It seems like people do want to steal his time, and Will sort of intervenes and manages to help him get out. Hamilton basically transfers all of his time to Will in the night and then goes and dies. Will's friend, who's played by Johnny Galecki, says to Will, you really should get out of here because someone will try and take it. So Will says, okay, I'm off to New Greenwich, and then gives his friend like a decade for every year that they've been friends. I mean, I find that so callous of him, honestly, because he could have given him a whole lifetime. He had plenty to give. I guess it doesn't matter. But also, you know, Will is trying to go meet his mum so that they can both go to New Greenwich together, and she times out just as she sort of jumps into his arms. It looked almost as graceful as like a ballet performance. You know, Olivia Wilde has a very graceful long body, so it sort of lends itself to that. For me, that's the best moment of the whole film. And the intention of that jump as well is so that they can touch forearms and he can transfer some of the time, but obviously it's down to the wire for her. So Will goes to Greenwich and he just starts spending his cash, and people start to notice, oh, he's not really meant to be here, because if you are from here originally, or if you've been here for a long time, you know that you are just slow. Like, everyone is slow. They don't do these flashy sorts of things. He meets Amanda Seyfried's character. And she's excited by Will because she's like, well, he's a risk taker and I'm bored. So she kind of starts pursuing him, and Will starts pursuing her. And her father is a time-loaning businessman. And then there's this other storyline where, because this guy Hamilton, the person who's rich, who transferred all his money to Will, sort of died under these slightly murky circumstances, there's someone called Raymond Leon, played by Cillian Murphy, the leader of the police-like timekeepers. They think Will killed this guy and took his money because he really shouldn't be there in Greenwich. He's not like any of the other people there. So he starts pursuing Will. Will then takes this Sylvia, takes her as hostage, and then escapes to Dayton. And he's being pursued by this gang as well, who want to steal from both of them. In the process, Will crashes a car, and this gang manages to take from the girl. Will tries to get her father to pay a ransom to the people of Dayton. And then Cillian Murphy's character manages to find them, and Sylvia shoots him in the arm. The moment when Leon is just about to, I think, like, shoot one of them or something, he times out. He's paid by day, apparently, just like the rest of them. And then the rest of the film is just a crapshoot of Will and Sylvia stealing from banks, like these time banks, and giving out time capsules to people, and then that being redistributed to other people. There's a scene where he gives to this, what seems like a priest, and then the priest gives out to the needy. In the end, they give out so much that people don't need to work, and they start to abandon their jobs, and the whole system starts to break down. And then the last scenes are Will and Sylvia going to much bigger banks, so the stakes get even higher for them to steal money from people, or rather time, so they can redistribute it. So it ends up becoming some sort of Robin Hood type film. I think what is missing for me is just this larger world building, and I guess that's intentional. Like, it probably was never intended to be a big film or to have sequels or anything like that, but the fact that we don't see anything beyond America feels really odd to me. That we just see, it's not even the whole of the United States of America, it just seems like one state, because we see like the poor part of it, we see the rich part of it, and that all seems encapsulated in one state. What else is going on in the rest of the world? Like, how else are people living? Like, I think it's just the sites are set really small because they're only looking at one small area. The fact that this system, you know, it becomes universal, 1 second of time is the same as someone else's second of time, means that they eradicate currencies, right? But they completely ignore the fact that currencies mean the world. Currencies mean different countries. Will and Sylvia only steal from one small bank and then redistribute. Their fight is with a small lone guy. That is the big boss that they're going after, and a gang member, I guess. But who made this technology? Like, how is this technology being made? It doesn't look beyond its own state, I guess, and it makes it really small. Like, it could be such a great film. I think examples where they've taken topics like this and then expanded it to show the rest of the world have given it so much depth, and you can see that in, like, The Last of Us, for instance. You know, this issue of the fungus and the fact that it became a global pandemic. They look at how this impacts other people, you know, where it started. There are people from different countries speaking about this problem, and it expands from there. So they're showing that it's not just this one small place that is affected, it's everywhere, and that gives a weight to the problem. But you don't get it with this film. It makes it very small. And beyond that, like, looking at the tech, what process happens when the timer stops? Why does it stop people from living? These are the questions that I had watching it. Like, there was one specific scene where they talked about don't even remember exactly, but the Sylvia's like, I was sleeping, and you see a thing of her being shocked, and like a decade gets taken away from her. And I don't remember why that happened. There is something that happens in the body, and you see when people get to zero that a similar thing happens where there is like a shock to their body. But what if you could stop that? Like, what is it? Is there something attached to the heart? Like, what if they took that out for people? Is there an easy way to take that out to stop people from dying? Like, if the technology exists to like enable their bodies and their organs to be 25, what if they just took the thing out that stopped their hearts from beating? Then they could live forever. They could choose to live forever. But instead, the film is, we're just going to rob banks and take these things that give us temporary time, but not try to solve the bigger problem. And I mean, the kind of end implies that they're going to go after bigger and bigger fish, and maybe eventually they're going to solve this problem by stealing from bigger and bigger banks. I think in the hands of someone else, the storyline might have been better. You know, the delivery of the main actors. I don't think Justin Timberlake and Amanda Seyfried were like the right people for this kind of thing. But I think the direction that the storyline takes is just leaves it so short of where it could have been. I saw a review of it where it called it a think piece, which is what I think it is. Like, the concepts are so interesting, but the delivery was very meh. I think this would have been better just as a heist film if you'd taken out the science fiction elements, because once you add the science fiction in, it just raises a lot of questions. Not all science fiction films have to have everything well thought out, but that is the expectation when you make a sci-fi film now. Have you closed all of your loops? So that's the film In Time. Great ideas, had such great potential, but unfortunately fell a little short. That's it for this episode. See you next time. Bye!